So the Treasury Secretary has admitted a massive fraud. And this is great news because he's also committed himself to some change. And I love seeing that. And what he did here in committing himself to this change is gorgeous and a beautiful thing to watch. But it comes also on the heels of President Trump having to take a minor detour in his wishes for Ed Martin. So we'll talk about both of these things because both of them are vitally important to the body politic. The human body is obviously vitally important to all of us. It was so important that God decided to make us in his own image. So he values our bodies. And I think God would be aghast at some of the things that people are being told that they have to have. For instance, I know a guy who could no longer use his hands and he's in the building trades. So when you can't, pick up a hammer or a drill or anything like that, you're out of the building trades. And here's what he was told. We're going to have to take you out of work for a couple of years, and we're going to have to scrape the tunnels around the tendons in your arm and take you through a series of painful physical therapies to get the use of your hands back. Then we're going to have you on anti-inflammatories and pain pills for a long time. That's what he was told. Here's what he did. He went to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico to renew .healthcare, and he was back to work in 2 weeks. Because here's what they did. They put him in a hyperbaric oxygen therapy tank. They put him through NAD therapy, which is simply, it's an IV of vitamins and minerals. They gave him a Myers drip, and they gave him stem cells that are derived only from umbilical cords, and umbilical cords where they've rejected 80% of the cords because they're so hyper obsessed with quality. That's what they did. He went home and he went back to work. People get afraid of this stuff because they don't know how much it's going to cost. So go find out how much it's going to cost and compare that to what your insurance company is willing to do to you. It's Renew, RENUE.healthcare. That's RENUE.healthcare. So the left, well, and let's be clear, the right, so-called, Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina, succeeded in blocking Ed Martin from becoming U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Well done. Look what you did. You blocked the guy. Well, they're going to get a comeuppance. And this was a brilliant move by President Trump. So he's not going to have to go through Senate confirmation. He's going to have 3 new jobs at the DOJ. One of those jobs is investigating the Biden-era weaponization of the DOJ against conservatives. And I guarantee that Jan 6 will be part of this. And now what have they done? They've taken a guy who's a career attorney who served in positions of importance in the government before. And what have they done? They've radicalized him. They have. They said to him, they've showed him, we're not going to let you change this. Tom Tillis, a senator on the Republican side, said, I don't want it to change. And now Ed Martin, I think, has behind him a great deal of motivation. Oh, you did this to me? I want revenge. I hope he's not thinking of that way. Because revenge is the Lord's and the Lord's alone. But how about justice? Careful what you wish for is that old cliche. Careful what you did if you were one of the people who committed some of the most obvious financial crimes in the world. Our Treasury Secretary testified on 1.5 billion Treasury payments and an annoying detail about those payments and what it meant.
Can you define for the committee today what an improper payment is and some examples of what you're seeing and why these procedures were not already in place before, Mr. Secretary?
Well, it's a bit mystifying why they weren't in place. And what we are seeing is that there was a very complacent upper level of management in many departments across the entire government. What I can say at Treasury, that of the 1.5 billion payments we send out every year, they're required to have something called a TAS, a Treasury account symbol. We discovered that more than one third of those payments did not have a TAS number. So as the Appropriations Committee, you should be shocked by that, because how can a payment be tracked back to an appropriation? Only through the TAS number. So there was no accountability. So that is why the 450 organizations that sit above Treasury, where Treasury acts as the paymaster, are unable to pass an audit.
Everyone get that? They have no idea where the money went. Now, try this in your job. Try it with an expense account. Try it. Submit an expense account for $100,000. And when your boss comes and says, for what? Go, I don't know. It's just money I spent. On what? Wait, I'm supposed to track this? Wait, is that wrong? Because if someone told me that's wrong, to just go, DC has not been the real world for many, many years, and Scott Bessent is bringing some financial discipline to it, by the way, courtesy of DOJ. And that is fantastic to see. And I hope Ed Martin will accept this role because he's been given much and much is expected. Please, Ed, have at your heart justice, not revenge, because God cannot bless revenge. He can bless justice.